How different is an Australian Christmas to the rest of the world? People often criticise that Christmas is so different in Australia that you just don't have this Christmassy feeling. Well, according to this Daily Mail article, and yeah, I know there aren't many good facts that start with according to this Daily Mail article, but hear me out. Well, in a survey of 2,000 people from a range of different countries, they voted Australia as the best for Christmas. So these are my 13 differences that you might experience during a Christmas in Australia, and you can let me know whether you think it's better or not. Now, the first one with Christmas obviously being in the summer is we kind of dress a little bit differently. And what I mean by that is there's no ugly Christmas knitwear. If you wear any knitwear in Australia during Christmas, you're gonna melt. Now that doesn't mean that we don't like ugly Christmas related attire. Ugly Christmas t-shirts, ugly Christmas shirts. Depending on how bogan you wanna be, I reckon you could go for a lovely, ugly Christmas singlet. Because whilst the general nature of what you're wearing at Christmas, i.e. how thick it is, might be a little bit slightly different, the fact that Christmas is so festive that you want to dress up like a twat doesn't really change. How many of you love the smell of fresh pine at Christmas? Do you love a real Christmas tree? Well, in Australia, you might be ever so slightly disappointed. You can get real Christmas trees in Australia, probably more so in the southern states. But up here in sunny Queensland, getting a real Christmas tree isn't the easiest thing in the world. And especially in this heat, which is warm in most places at Christmas time in Australia. Sorry, Tasmania. How long do you think a real Christmas tree would last once it's been cut down and left out? I often think of Christmases in the UK, and the main thing that I remember about having a real Christmas tree was pine needles constantly dropping. Like the fact of everything in Australia about Christmas, you're gonna have a bit of fake snow, you're gonna have a bit of fake other cold things. Most people just opt for having a fake tree as well. Who actually likes Christmas desserts? Christmas cake with all that marzipan, pretty heavy. Christmas pudding, and to make it taste a little bit less shit, just pour a load of brandy on it and set it on fire. Well, this is probably one of the best things about an Australian Christmas, which you could do in a colder climate, but it wouldn't really work. And sorry, New Zealand, I have to be with my Australian brothers here. Australia invented it first, and it's the greatest part about Christmas dessert. It's a pavlova. Who at the end of a hearty meal needs a massive stodgy dessert that might have a coin in it that's to take your tooth out? Just have a light, refreshing pavlova. And if you want to customize it a little bit, you can have whatever fruits you want. Strawberries, passion fruit, kiwis. I mean, not New Zealanders like kiwi fruit. The pavlova is quite possibly the best Christmas dessert you can have, and what better way to celebrate it than having it in the summer with your bogan Chrissy singlet on. How much of a pain in the arse are Christmas decorations? As the father of the house, I can think of no other ball ache than when December rolls around, because I won't do it in November because that's just weird. I am the one that is tasked with getting the Christmas decorations, and particularly the outside ones, assisting on their erection. Didn't think I'd ever say erection on a YouTube video. Well, in Australia, for Christmas decorations, sometimes people just think that they don't really exist. But like the love of Vegemite, which is kind of the similar thing to Marmite, but just better, Chrissy decorations are a love-hate relationship. You will have houses that don't have anything on them. It's like Christmas didn't exist in their house. And you will get others where at night time you can see it from the International Space Station. Some places in Australia, it's not even just one house. The whole street will get fully into it. In the UK, I never really saw so many houses so concentrated together going full out on Christmas decorations. But by the same token, I never saw whole streets where it was like no one wanted to celebrate the festiveness of the season. If you think Aussies don't like Christmas because of how little they decorate their houses, then you're just looking in the wrong street, mate. What month can you expect to hear your first Christmas song on the radio? Because I remember when I used to live in the UK, it wasn't uncommon to hear it in November, and God forbid you ever started hearing Christmas songs in shops from as early as October. Well, thankfully in Australia, that madness is left in the Northern Hemisphere. Whilst I have to agree that Christmas doesn't really start until you hear Mariah Carey, considering how often it is played, you don't need to hear it straight away. It's the final week of Christmas preparations, and in Australia, on the radio, they still haven't gone fully crazy on the Christmas songs. Why? I don't know. Life's pretty good when it's in the summer, so you don't need to be constantly reminded about how shit life is and that you've got Christmas to look forward to by just hammering on the songs where they're not allowed to say the naughty words anymore. Do you need to hear Christmas songs to get in the spirit? It's a bit sad if you do. Who actually dreams of having a white Christmas? Yep, me. And in my 32 years of living in the UK, how often did it actually happen? Once. And it wasn't even really snow. It was just like thicker, chunkier hail, and it didn't even settle. But there was kind of frozen water in the atmosphere. That is as good as we got. Now, if you're watching this from America or Canada, then you probably have experienced your fair few white Christmases. Again, depending on where you live, because I know that America's a vastly wide-ranging country as well. But I don't know why so many people hold on to this white white Christmas nostalgia, when realistically it almost never happens. It's like a wish that you have in the back of your mind, again just to mask how the atmospheric conditions of the time of year Christmas can actually be. You're essentially holding on for the best bit about a winter in the Northern Hemisphere that never really happens, and when it does, it's also going to completely shut down the transport network in the UK. Give me the start of summer in Australia, thank you very much. Christmas is quite possibly the most expensive time of the year. Some people get tremendous anxiety with how much the whole silly season is going to cost. Now, prices in Australia have increased like anywhere else in the world, but here I feel like you don't have to spend money just to enjoy yourself. It's probably got a lot to do with the fact that it's now summer and there is a multitude of things that you can do outside for free. But compounded by the fact that in Australia I don't think Christmas is so overly commercialised, you don't feel compelled to do these Christmassy things that cost you an arm and a leg. Christmas markets, yeah, they do happen here, but not necessarily as much. And you don't feel like you have to go to them because there's literally nothing else to do. Oh, quickly, it's Christmas, get yourself some old wine. Spending anywhere between £8 and £10 for a tiny little warm goblet of Blossom Hill that they've just chucked a bit of orange and cinnamon into, quite frankly to me is like someone pissing on your back and telling you it's raining. When I do go back to the UK at Christmas time, because I want my girls to experience what it is like to have a cold and Christmas, I am going to go back to a Christmas market once just to prove to myself how it is, but then fake a smile to not bring an absolute downer onto my two young children. That's what fathers do.
If you fancy yourself an Aussie Christmas next year, but you have no idea where to start moving over here, then you'll need to find out if you even qualify for a visa. Australia is one of those pesky countries that doesn't just let anyone in, and realistically the whole moving process was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life. To help you out and plan what you need to do next, speak to our friends True Blue Migration Services, and when you mention us, let them do the hard work of navigating the ever-changing Australian visa system, and use their free visa assessment service so they can tell you exactly what you need to do to realise your dreams down under. As the only MARA registered visa company we trust, and we're not the only ones as they have hundreds of 5-star Google reviews. You can even check them out if you need help falling asleep. In fact, they're so slick that if you decide to use them, they'll pretty much do all of the hard work for you in securing your visa for you and your family to live their best life. So what are you waiting for?
What are your favourite Christmas foods? What kind of roast do you have? Quite frankly, if you don't have turkey, you're a psycho. But in Australia, having a warm Christmas dinner when it's 30+ degrees outside, and in Brisbane it's about 80% humidity, tucking into a warm roast with gravy and all of the other trimmings can seem like you're just warming up for having a Christmas dinner in hell. It's not really hell unless you've got those family over that you don't really like. But again, if you've moved to the other side of the world, chances are they're probably not going to make it this year. That's another good thing. But simply Christmas food in Australia, you change to suit the season. Instead of having warm meats, you can still have the same warm meats but just slightly colder. Maybe even have a little bit of a salad with it. Or rather than just all of the roasties, try a potato bake. Simply the best thing that can be done to potatoes since sliced potatoes. But there is one similarity that you're going to have probably at Christmas dinner, particularly if you're of my age group and your family remembers the 1980s, there's going to be lots of prawns. Why change a classic? If you had one drink that epitomised Christmas, what would it be? For some people it could be eggnog, which I've never actually had. Isn't it just like alcoholic custard? It could be a mulled wine or a mulled anything. Why would you just, what is mulling? Is mulling literally just adding a bit of orange and cinnamon and warming it up? Doesn't that just get rid of the alcohol and not really improve the taste? Well, in Australia you can take all of your fancy alcoholic things, which you never drink at any other time of the year. How good can they be if you never drink them at any other time? They're not really that good then, are they? In Australia, just get me a beer, mate. But if you're really fancy, apparently you'll just get Crown lagers, which I've also never had. So it's a toss-up this year between eggnog or a Crown lager. Which one do you think I'm probably going to go for? When you're winding down to watch sport this Christmas, what's your go-to sport? Depending on where you live, it could be some version of football, you know, the kicking kind or the throwing kind. I don't know, what other sports do they play in the winter? Well, in Australia, you're not really going to get much footy. I mean, depending on how much you've eaten and whether you need a nap, you might want to watch A-League soccer. Yeah, that'll put you to sleep pretty quick. But you're probably going to go for something like a bit of backyard cricket, or if you're not feeling too energetic, you could just watch cricket in the Boxing Day test. Yeah, that'll probably send you to sleep as well. Or if you're new to Australia, you want to try something a little bit different. I mean, you can't just try it, I mean, watch it. Then you want to watch the Sydney to Hobart boat race. Is it even called that? I don't even know if it's called that. I know there is a boat race on. I did watch it once. But then as a non-sailor, I didn't really know what I was watching. It's just a load of boats. Just go and enjoy your friends and family, mate, at Christmas. Why are you sitting there watching sport? How often do you think about swimming at Christmas? For the first 32 years of my life, I don't think I ever thought about swimming at Christmas, apart from the one time that I was in the Philippines. We weren't even really near the beach, so I couldn't really swim anyway. But swimming at Christmas in Australia is pretty much the done thing. Are you going to spend Christmas at the beach, even for just part of the day? Do you have the luxury of having your own pool, or at least pouncing off a friend that's got a pool that you can go into. Finding ways to escape from the heat in an Australian Christmas just seems like the done thing. And if, like me, you've got hyped up children that just need knackering out, watching them try to stay alive and not drown in a pool is probably the best way to do that. I mean, you don't want them to drown, you just want them to be tired and go to sleep. Describe what you think Santa looks like to me. A jolly fat man in red with a hat and perhaps a little bell in it. Does Santa have a bell in his hat? Or is that the elves? Santa in Australia has vastly different tastes. Like some of us who don't want to wear wool during a Christmas day, Santa also takes his choice in attire very seriously. He's definitely going to be wearing a t-shirt. Or a singlet. If he's down the beach, he's probably going to have some thongs on and a set of boardies. God forbid, what would Santa look like in a pair of budgie smugglers? And I had to explain this to my 4-year-old daughter today, that because Santa gets cookies and milk from all of the other children in other parts of the world, in Australia, you've got to leave out a beer for Santa. Because the only way for a 4-year-old to understand is if you eat too many cookies and drink too much milk, you're going to be sick. Yeah, probably drinking too many beers is going to make you sick as well. But we won't tell that to them. That's just something for them to experience on their 18th. Drink responsibly, children. Depending where you are in the world, how long do you get off at Christmas? Now, for some, this can be a massively contentious issue, but even me as a teacher in the UK, the 2 weeks off at Christmas seemed like a massive rush all of the time to fit everything in. Well, even if you don't work in teaching in Australia, it can sometimes be customary that you're pretty much off for 2 weeks as well. Depending on how hard you want to work, you might even work all the way up to Christmas Eve. But as soon as that is done, but for at least the next week, you're going to enjoy what is affectionately known as Chrissy New Year's, which for those normally over the age of 18 can be a constant state of, is it too early to have a beer yet? And no one is going to want to employ you with that much blood in your alcohol system. Yeah, I did say that right. Nothing really gets done in Australia for at least a week to 2 weeks over that Chrissy New Year period. And to support that, many Australians don't even really bother to go out. Just stay at home and have a beer, mate. Or eggnog. No one needs to go through the rush of Christmas. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy your Chrissy New Year's. In fact, just enjoy all of the differences. Because in Australia, Christmas is never really going to be the same. Christmas is about making memories with your loved ones and not just hanging on to weird old traditions that are never really ever going to work on the other side of the world. If you move to Australia, you'll have the benefit of combining all of the aspects of Christmas that you've enjoyed from all of the cultures that you've experienced around the world. There's always going to be someone that disagrees, but let's face it, an Australian Christmas is already that. It's a hybrid of all of the best bits of Christmas from all the different parts of the world, because that's what the Australian culture is made up of. So realistically, deep down, an Australian Christmas isn't really that dissimilar. So just go do what you want at Christmas. And in true Australian fashion, don't give a monkeys about anyone else's opinion. And if you want to see what our Christmas was like last year, check this video out. See you next time.